For one quarter on Sunday, the San Antonio Spurs were in a close game with the Phoenix Suns, but then the following three quarters, the Spurs fell behind by a large margin, and the Suns ended up winning by 38 points. And so the San Antonio Spurs' losing streak is extended to 11 games. How's it going, everyone? This is Paul Garcia from Project Spurs. Let's go through to a quick recap of this game for the Spurs, their 24th game of the season. So before tip-off, what's the scenario for both teams? Coach Pop was still out with that after undergoing that minor medical procedure, but he is expected to return on Thursday against the Houston Rockets. So he'll be back on the sideline for the team. The Spurs were without multiple key rotation players in Jakob Poeltl, Jeremy Sohan, Josh Richardson, and Doug McDermott, who were all on the injured list. And then for the Suns, they were missing Chris Paul and Cameron Johnson, who are both important parts of their rotation as well. And this wasn't expected to be a close one according to Vegas. The Suns were favored by 10, but it got way out of hand for San Antonio. So let's go to the story of the game, and this kind of tells it right here. So in the first 6 minutes, the Suns and Spurs are battling really close. The Spurs actually started with the 7-0 run to begin the game. And so, 6-minute mark of the first quarter, it's a tied game for both teams. Then at the end of the first quarter, it's still a close game. The Spurs are only down by 5 points. The Suns are up by 5. The second quarter, the first 6 minutes are still pretty competitive. The Suns go up by 13, but they're up by 11 by the midway point. And then the game gets out of hand, and this is really because of Bridges' shooting. Mikal Bridges, he just goes off from three, and he basically, again, you see right there, from the 6-minute mark of the second quarter all the way to halftime, just in 6 minutes, the Suns are able to go up 19 more points, and they end up going up by 30 into the half, and that was pretty much it. I mean, you see here, second half starts, the Spurs are down by 39 midway through the third. By the end of the third, they're down by 35. The Suns actually got their lead all the way to 44 points, and that is now the second largest deficit for the Spurs this season. Two of their three largest deficits by 40 points have been while in the AT&T Center at home. The largest margin of deficit was 48 points to Toronto earlier this season in San Antonio. Then midway through the fourth, the Suns are up by 32, and then the final outcome is Suns by 38. Both teams pulled most of their starters there by the fourth quarter. All right, so your leading scorers for San Antonio, Keldon had been struggling, but he actually had a pretty good game here. Again, it didn't really matter because the Suns had such a huge margin over the Spurs. And so Keldon actually has a nice night with 27 points. He mainly got a lot of his shots in the paint. He was really trying to just attack Phoenix's defense. You can tell now that at his three-point shot, how he's struggling from there, that he started to hesitate from there, or if he sees a wide open lane, he's going to attack that more so rather than in the beginning of the season when he was first taking threes. So again, the three-point shot is something Keldon's still working on, but at least his inside scoring, he had that going. Devin Vassell off the bench. Not off the bench, starting there with 14 points, second leading scorer for San Antonio. Then you had Bates-Diop with 12 points, and then Trey Jones with 10 points. For the Suns, they had multiple players score over 20 or more points. You had DeAndre Ayton with 25 points. Bridges, like I mentioned, his three-point shooting. He makes 6 threes, 20 points. Devin Booker with the 20-point night. And then Dario Saric, 17 points, but he really got going more so in garbage time when he started making a lot of threes. And then Jock Landale, former Spur, off the bench with 12 points. And Landry Shamet by 10 points. And why was this game such a huge blowout for the Suns? It was the three-point line. Look at that. The Suns won 57-18. They outscored the Spurs there by 39 points. And they barely won the free throw line. The Spurs barely won the paint and mid-range. So it was a difference in three-point shooting for both these teams. If we look at the shot chart, not going to go too deep into here. On offense, the Suns basically had a great night shooting the ball except for the mid-range, and then the Spurs again continued to struggle with that three-point shot. They had a pretty good night though, making their shots in the paint. So that's all we want to focus on there. I'm not going to go too deep into the offense and defense because again, this wasn't really a close game. It was over, but from second quarter and beyond, this one was over. So we do want to note some standout players for San Antonio. So in 33 minutes, Keldon Johnson tops out as the standout player with 27 points on just 23 shots. He grabs 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He does have 5 fouls and then 1 steal, 1 turnover. Bates-Diop did start at the 4. He plays 31 minutes, scores 12 points on just 6 shots, gets 3 rebounds, and then no turnover. That's notable. And then Devin Vassell in the starting lineup with 31 minutes. He scores 14 points on just 12 shots, a low shot volume for Devin in this one. He gets 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and then he did have 3 turnovers there. So again, those are your standout players, but again, it was pretty big gap for Phoenix in that game. Where are the Spurs now through 24 games? They are now 6-18 overall. They have dropped now to 15th out west. So they do have the worst record in the out west. They now have the second worst record in the NBA, which means that for lottery purposes, they have a 14% chance of odds for the number 1 overall pick if this record were to hold by the end of the year. They are now 3-10 at home. They're 2-16 versus the West. They fall to 0-16 when trailing by double digits, and they are on that 11-game losing streak now, which is still the longest in the NBA this season. Up next for the Spurs, they have a chance to end this losing streak. This is probably their best chance coming up. It's going to be on Thursday. They get a few days off, so get some practice time, get some time for some of those injured players to heal up. And then they return at home in the AT&T Center against the Houston Rockets, who are basically almost like the Spurs. They're 6-17. They have a bad record. They're 14th out west. And then on Saturday, the Spurs get back on the road and they travel to Miami against the Heat, who are struggling this season, 11-12 overall. And they're 9th in the East. So again, if the Spurs want to end that losing streak, Thursday looks like a great opportunity to do that for this team. So for Project Spurs, I am Paul Garcia. Have a great Sunday.